show.
Welcome to episode 83 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. He's Lepore, I'm Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. The Toronto Maple Leafs are a wagon. They are on fire right now. They have not lost in regulation since November 11th. They have the fourth best record in the NHL based on points percentage. Mitch Marner is riding a 20-game point streak. Their entire defense core is on IR, but it doesn't matter one bit. So we are going to give you our thoughts and opinions on everything that has gone down with this team over the last week or so. And we're also going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens. So I promise you want to stay tuned until the very end of this podcast. But before that, it is time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing, man?
Anthony Bruno, happy to be here as usual. Episode 83 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast. Shout out goes to Cody Ceci, who rocked the number 83 for 1 year with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I was always taught, if you're not going to say anything nice, don't say it at all. So I'm just going to end it right there and let's move on to the show, Bruno. Or I'll ask you this. We'll move on to this. With the way this current D is constructed and how they're doing well, would Cody Ceci have a positive effect right now?
You know what, Lepore? I said this on the last show. I think if me and you were the third defense pair on the Leafs right now, they'd be okay. So you know what? Okay. Cody Ceci, you'd be more than fine right now playing 15 minutes a night on the Leafs blue line. Sure. I will refrain from saying anything bad about him. I think we've done our fair share of bashing when it comes to Cody Ceci, so we'll stay away from that. But yes, I think anyone could play on the Leafs blue line right now with the way they're operating.
I like it.
All right, Lepore, let's get right into this.
Why not?
Like I said off the top of the show, the Leafs are a certified wagon right now. I don't care who comes back at me and says I'm overreacting, saying I'm an idiot. They're one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. They're top 3 in the league in goals against per game. They're limiting shots. You know, you could look at expected goals against as well. The goaltending has been absolutely phenomenal.
Crazy.
Currently sitting 4th in the league in 5-on-5 save percentage. The offense is starting to come around. It's just, honestly, there's really not a lot of bad happening right now with the Leafs. The only bad thing is that the defense core has not been healthy, but it hasn't mattered. Yeah. They're just on fire right now, Lepore. And after seeing last night's game against the Dallas Stars, what Matt Murray was able to do, 44 save shutout, this team is on a roll right now. So, man, give me your take on what we're watching recently with this Leafs team.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, they are a certified wagon, but I'm having a hard time during this stretch pinpointing how they're winning. Or I shouldn't say that. It seems as if they're winning for a different reason every single night. Whether they light up the opponent or they have a good defensive game, or like last night, like Murray stole it. Like let's call it how it is. It's not too often in the NHL that one team gets as many more power plays as Dallas did last night over their opponent. And Murray saved the day. If you follow the expected goals, it went bananas in Dallas's favor in the second period because they got that. There was that double minor and the 5-on-3 where they had like 15 high danger scoring chances that Murray kept out. So like he was the reasoning there. As I said, guys are producing, guys are stepping up. They put up the stat last night with Giordano, 12 games in a row. Gio's played over 20 minutes. Incredible, man. Like, is it fair to say, and again, you try to be careful all the time as a Leafs fan for like hot takes or going overboard. Am I a complete donkey if I argued that Giordano is the best contract in the league?
Wow, that's
Seriously.
A really interesting take, Lepore. But honestly, if you just look at the value he is providing, making $800,000 a year, it's got to be right up there. I don't want to say it's the most valuable contract in the league, because you could say like Leon Draisaitl making like 8.5, and he's a superstar.
Right.
You could even say that Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews are underpaid. But like, yeah, man, it's really hard to argue based on what we're seeing from Giordano. Now he's playing top pair minutes. He's playing in all situations. He can do it all, man. At the age of 39, making $800K, it's been
Crazy.
Incredible.
But like to your point about, and this is kind of what I mean by say Draisaitl. Okay, he makes $8 million a year. If he hit free agency tomorrow, he'd probably get 11, 12, like whatever he would get, maybe even 13. Who knows? I legitimately think like if the Leafs were paying Giordano, I mean minus all our cap bullshit, if the Leafs were paying Giordano like $4.5 million, I'd be like okay. Like I wouldn't really have this like strong argument against it based on the way he's playing. It makes sense. And that'd be the right thing to say. Like fans, comment down below. If Giordano hit free agency, what do you think he would fetch? Or like on a 1-year deal type thing, or if had he just went to free agency and not signed with the Leafs, what would he have received? He would have received like any team in the NHL would have given him $3.5 million. Like done. We see these contracts getting passed around the league on a short-term deal. You can't tell me no one would have given him at least like a 2-year deal at $7 or $8 million. He's paying for league min. It's crazy. But again, different reasons why they're winning. Matt Murray, man. Matt Murray. The point I've made about Kyle Dubas in the past, and it's funny how it's episode 83, you see deals all the time, whether it's trades or free agency signings, where there's kind of a consensus that deal sucks. Like, why did that team trade this to get that? Or why did they sign this guy for that amount or for this long? And again, ironic, the only one that I really had that I could point to Kyle Dubas with was the CC signing. It didn't make sense. I was like, why did we do that? So like, we didn't need Cody CC at $4.5 million. We could have done much better. And that one failed. But I made the point about Dubas. Mine is that one. I can't really think of one. But this summer, he goes out and makes that Murray deal. And there was a lot of finger pointing. Why did Toronto do that? And people were listing the options, comparing what they could have gotten, other contracts in the league. He got Matt Murray, who's playing incredible right now, for $4.5 million. Ottawa threw in a 3rd-round pick to take him. And Kyle Dubas is giving us all the middle finger right now with that deal. And I know people are screaming in the comments already his health, and hopefully he can stay healthy. And that's true. He could blow his groin tomorrow and it's over with. But in terms of a gamble, it's tough to argue that Kyle Dubas didn't take the right gamble at this point.
Yeah, Matt Murray has been incredible. And the only other contract I can think of that kind of blew up in Dubas's face was the Mrazek deal.
Good one.
The Peter Mrazek deal. I believe it was 3 years, $3.5 million.
But at the time, Bruno, were you like, this is terrible?
No. At the time, I was like, okay, I'm fine. Because Peter Mrazek throughout his career has had like a 9-10 save percentage. Right. He's a solid goalie. He looked good in Carolina. Right. A little inconsistent, but you thought he was going to be fine. You didn't think he'd be horrible. And they'd be like dying to get rid of his contract, which they ended up doing. But yeah, man. And we said this, back in the offseason. To say that we weren't worried at all about the goaltending situation, like that's not true. I think everyone in Leafs Nation was a little bit worried, but I'll say I thought the goaltending was going to be fine. You can go back and look at the previous podcast, and I'm pretty sure you were in the same boat as me. Like, I didn't think it would be a train wreck at all because, I've been beating this like a dead horse for the last 3 months. Last season, the Leafs finished with a franchise record 115 points and ranked 27th in the NHL in 5-on-5 save percentage. I'm telling you guys right now, you think Kyle Dubas is stupid. You guys think, there's people in the Leafs front office who are stupid. You don't think the Leafs front office sees those numbers and even some numbers that we're not totally aware of, because they have their own analytics departments, that's digging into different stats when it comes to goaltending and defense and offense and all those things. Do you think they're stupid? I don't think they came into this season thinking with Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov that the goaltending was going to be worse than what we saw last season. So while all of Leafs Nation was losing their shit and everyone was like, oh my God, Dubas he's risking his career on Matt Murray and Ilya Samsonov. Dubas was probably sitting in his office thinking, no matter who I bring in, there is like a 3% chance that my goaltending this year is going to be worse than the shit that we saw last season with Jack Campbell and Peter Mrazek.
Yeah, it's true. And even again, like the number, I remember someone pointed it out. The two of them combined are making about $6 million. And that is the average amount that teams pay a tandem right now in the NHL. So I'm sure he looked at that too. He's like, if I can just get average goaltending from these two guys, and I think I have a good team in front of them. But I don't know if you saw that stat someone posted the other day, and like how we always say the line is, goalies are voodoo. You can't predict from year to year. It was, I believe, the top 10 goalies in the league, and 7 out of 10 are below 900. Yeah. Think about that for a second. And that's where like deals like this come in. They see a guy, and I'm talking generally about, coaching staffs and management staffs and goalies. They see a guy and they're like, I can get 9-10 out of this guy. And they're all confident. These guys all think they're the smartest. So goalies, man, like it's almost funny. Goaltending now has kind of become almost the biggest like cap cheat in the National Hockey League. Because if you can get goaltending at a fair price, it's amazing. On the flip side, it's fatal to pay an average or bad goalie a lot of money. And like I said, Dubas paid the gamble. And it's worked out for him. But and even too with Murray, how many people always brought up his health. Had he gotten hurt, I mean, okay, he's on LTIR, whatever. The Leafs have Samsonov, and they can make a deal, figure it out. Like I think that was involved in the gamble too. And if he's healthy playing, again, I think I can get average goaltending from this guy. Was the take. And goaltending around the league is down. I saw that the other day.
It's totally down across the board. Like you said, there's a lot of star goalies in the league this year who are not playing as close to what we've seen over the last 2 to 3 seasons.
Yeah,
Jacob Markstrom, Thatcher Demko, Vasilevsky's numbers are down. Even Shesterkin, his numbers have been down a little bit. Like it's across the NHL.
Yeah, it's kind of that. I mean, the numbers that were always thrown out there for average goaltending is like, get us a 9.15, or it was like 9.18 for a few years. It is dropping. Like we're going to get to a point where it's going to be like save 9 out of 10 and talk about shooters being better or styles of play. Who the fuck knows? But something to take into consideration too, and like giving our goalies right now a high five.
And, here's what I'll say. Like, I don't think Kyle Dubas and the Leafs front office thought that Murray and Samsonov would be playing this well.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now, you just look at the stats. Murray has a .932 save percentage. Samsonov is in the 920s. Goals saved above expected. They're both in the top 10 in the NHL. Like, they are playing unbelievably well. So I don't think Dubas and co thought, these guys are going to be star goalies this year, and one of them might win the Vezina and they're going to win the Jennings Trophy together. But I also don't think Dubas thought that they'd be bad. I thought, I think Dubas genuinely thought the goaltending was going to be fine. I really believe that. So for all the people thinking, he put his career on the line. We talked about this in the offseason. Unless you have one of these elite goalies who, by the way, as we just mentioned, a lot of them aren't even playing nearly as well as any of us thought. If you don't have one of those guys, you're in that next tier of guys where it's kind of like hit or miss most seasons.
And I think that's what he was thinking too. He's like, I'm gambling with these two as much as I'm gambling with anyone. So,
and Lepore, I'm not a goaltending expert by any means, but when you watch Matt Murray in the net, like I'm just comparing him to Jack Campbell, what we saw last season, and even the Jack Campbell we're seeing this season. He's just bigger.
I was going to say Campbell looks small. He looks small all the time. Yeah.
Murray's just more fundamentally sound. Like he just looks like a better goaltender. And again, I'm not an expert by any means. You're not a goaltending expert, but I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to see that Matt Murray is just flat out more talented than Jack Campbell.
Well, Bruno, I mean, I think it's safe to say that I'm an expert when it comes to scoring on goalies. Heyo.
Yeah, that's true. You're a sniper, Lepore.
Yeah, but yeah, like in terms of the goalies too, right? It's a total crapshoot. You don't know what you're going to get. And again, we're beating the dead horse here. Kyle Dubas's gamble paid off. And with regard to that gamble, like you said, people were pointing to Kyle Dubas and saying he is risking his job because of these deals. He's putting this elite team in a bad situation because of goaltending. You know what? I'll say the opposite. I'll say he took the safest route, and I'll point to 2 alternatives people had. 1, signing Jack Campbell. Okay? If the Leafs had signed Jack Campbell to the deal that Edmonton did, and he was playing as he's playing now, that's risking your career. Then it's like, if he got fired for that, I'd be like, okay. Like at the end of the year,
fireable offense.
Totally. And the other one, remember everyone wanted to trade for Gibson?
Yeah.
Who's got like 5-6 years left on his deal at like 6.5 million. We have to trade like a first round pick and whatever. Imagine he had made that deal, like traded the house for John Gibson, and we have a goalie on the books for forever now at 6.5 million who's average when he's playing well. He knows what he's doing, man. He knows what he's doing.
You know what, Lepore? I think that's a phenomenal take, because a lot of people thought the opposite, where the safe thing to do would be to give Jack Campbell 5 years, because we've seen him now for 2 to 3 seasons. You know, he's comfortable in the room. He's developed good relationships with everyone in the Leafs organization. You kind of knew what you were going to get, even with Gibson, right? Because of his past, even though his numbers have been down, it's like, he's been playing on the shitty Anaheim Ducks. He comes here. But really, I love how you just framed that, how those were actually more risky than what he did. Because if Murray and Samsonov don't work out, these guys aren't here long term. Murray's here 2 years. Samsonov, didn't Samsonov a 1-year deal?
1 year. He signed the 1 year, take a shot. He wants to prove himself. Yeah.
So you can get rid of those guys, no problem, and just start fresh. If you had Jack Campbell or John Gibson locked up here,
we're done.
They're playing like we're seeing this season. My goodness, Lepore. My goodness. So
at the end of the day, too, like these, we're backing up this decision by Kyle Dubas, but like these are facts. These goalies are playing well, and you can make the argument that different goalies play better or worse in different situations. But this is what we have. This is what we're seeing. Goalies playing well and goalies playing poorly, and the ones who are playing well have a Toronto Maple Leafs logo on their chest. So it is what it is. And like I said, fist pumps and high fives have to be given to Kyle Dubas.
Another thing I find really interesting is that last season, the Leafs finished with 115 points, franchise record. They were 27th in the league in 5-on-5 save percentage, as I've said 100 times. They were also 4th in the league in 5-on-5 shooting percentage. So they were top 5 in 5-on-5 shooting percentage, bottom 5 in 5-on-5 save percentage. This year, Lepore, those have essentially flipped. They haven't been horrible in 5-on-5 shooting percentage, but right now the Leafs are on pace for 115 points again. Their goaltending right now, 4th in 5-on-5 save percentage, and shooting percentage at 5-on-5. They're essentially right in the middle, 15th in the league.
There you go.
So can you imagine they start scoring goals at the same clip that we've seen, not only last season, but over the last 5 years? Now, I don't know if they're going to get to that point now that we're, past the quarter mark of the season. This could be what you see now is what you get, but I'd like to still think that there's room for this team to get even better, which is actually kind of scary considering they're playing at 115-point pace.
When you think about it for a second, it's like, well, if they're in the meaty part of the curve when it comes to shooting percentage, for them to get like top 5 or even top 10 like they were last year, they'd have to go absolutely bananas because they have to weigh out what they've already done. So if they do get there, it's going to get really ugly for the opposition. But you're right, man. No, like you're absolutely right. And this year too, man, the first couple of weeks of the season, that shooting percentage was terrible, was absolutely atrocious. So we kind of predicted that it would even out.
Yeah, so it's pretty wild to think that this team could actually improve as the season goes on. And, like I said, they have not lost in regulation since November 11th. They are now on a streak of 12 straight games where they've picked up at least 1 point. Yeah,
remember when we should fire the coach, trade everyone, fire the GM? We have no idea what we're doing. The window is closed. 82-game season, everyone. The cup is not won in the first 2 weeks of the season. And I know this happens every year. Teams that start hot and teams that start cold because it's a small sample size. But just remember, it's an 82-game season. You know what I'd love to look up? What were the betting odds in September for Samsonov and Murray winning the Jennings?
Jesus, probably like 40, 50 to 1.
Yeah. Oh, I think worse, man. I if it's like 100 to 1, like I wouldn't be surprised. But again, happy times in Leafland. We love to see it.
Only in Leafs Nation, man, do people lose their minds over every game, every period, every goal. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh, Twitter legit cannot handle the Leafs going down by 1. It's like the other team scores first, and it's all these takes like coming in. It's like, guys, their team got a power play and it went off someone's butt and in. Like, we got 55 minutes to go. Everybody relax, okay?
Man, Leafs Twitter during a Leaf game is just it's
entertainment.
If you haven't experienced it, just go on to Twitter. If you don't have a Twitter account, get one. Go on there, follow everyone from Leafs Twitter during a game. It's awesome. You know what? I'm sure it's the same experience across the league when it comes to all 7 Canadian teams, but the Leafs are just it's next level, man. It's hilarious most nights. So I love it, man. It's time for a quick break for a word from MANSCAPED. It's never too early to play holiday music, and it's never too early to start thinking about gifts. Whether it's for a friend or the friends in your pants, you can make this a season to be jolly with MANSCAPED. Do your little drummer boy a favor and use the Lawnmower 4.0 to avoid another silent night in the bedroom. Then add in MANSCAPED's top-of-the-line shower products to have the people thinking, all I want for Christmas is you.
Wow.
So go to manscaped.com and use our promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping. Lepore, all I want for Christmas is some more Manscaped products.
Well, I don't know what to do now. I mean, you sang, I can't upstage that. But I will say, Christmas time, everyone, you want to get the men in your life a gift they'll appreciate and they'll use. So why not give them Manscaped products? There's nothing more useful than a tool that can keep your balls clean. Manscaped's the best. Go to the website, promo code GFP20, 20% off and free shipping.
You can't go wrong. Manscaped has so many great products, from the Lawnmower 4.0 to the shower stuff to the boxers.
Best.
The nose and ear trimmer. It's just incredible stuff. So get 20% off and free shipping using the promo code GFP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping using our promo code GFP20 at manscaped.com. The holidays are almost here, and there is plenty of t-shirt cheer thanks to True Classic Tees. Fellas, we have the perfect gift for your wish list. True Classic Tees are a gift for you and a great present for any guy in your life. True Classic is on a mission to maximize men's confidence by making them look good. Trust me when I say this is a gift the ladies will appreciate too. True Classic has already helped over 2 million men look great in their tees, and now you can save big while you do so. Get 25% off True Classic using our promo code GFP, or head down to the description of this video and use our exclusive link, trueclassictees.com/GFP. And the discount doesn't stop there. You'll save even more during their site-wide sale. Lepore, I love these t-shirts.
Bruno, I am one of those people who, it doesn't matter how many push-ups I do, how much I do on the bench press, I don't gain any size. We're not all fortunate like Mr. Anthony Bruno to be born an absolute Adonis. So some of us need help. But since trying on these True Classic tees, I fear no more because I look great. I'm not going to go as far as say I look jacked, because now we're going overboard because I'm really skinny. But I got to say it does help a little bit. So gentlemen, take all the help you can get. Go to trueclassictees.com. Grab a few of these things. Even if you want to buy a small amount of them just to try them out, you will not be disappointed. They will be your new go-to t-shirt.
These t-shirts are the best. They fit so well, like nice and snug in the upper body, on the arms and the shoulders. But then as you kind of go down, it's not tight around your midsection. So it doesn't matter which body type you have, all right? Whether it's a dad bod, whether you have a more athletic physique, whether you're more on the skinny side, you can find a t-shirt here that is going to work for you. And that's why I love this company. So get 25% off at trueclassictees.com/GFP. Free shipping is included on purchases over $100. That's 25% off at trueclassictees.com using the promo code GFP. Fellas, are you looking for a new watch that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg on? Well, say hello to our friends at Vincero. If you aren't familiar with Vincero yet, they make exceptionally crafted and stylish watches at affordable prices. Other premium handcrafted watches don't fit the everyday person's budget. You can finally own a high quality and lasting timepiece without going broke. So if you're looking for the perfect holiday gift to help elevate your style or someone you love, get 20% off and free shipping with our promo code GFP or use the exclusive link in the description of this video, vincerocollective.com/GFP. Lepore, these watches are so sick.
Bruno, like, look at this watch. Guys, like, look at this watch. You can wear this with your jeans and a t-shirt. You can wear this watch with your tuxedo. And that's what I love about the Vincero products. You go through them, you can dress them up, you can dress them down. They're versatile. And as Bruno said, they don't break the bank. So if you want something that's high quality for not a high-end price, hit up Vincero, everyone.
These watches are just so nice. The quality is off the charts. The look is amazing. This is the Altitude. Lepore's rocking the Kairos. Just phenomenal watches. Absolutely love these from Vincero. So don't wait, or it's going to be too late. Get 20% off and free shipping with our exclusive link, vincerocollective.com/GFP. Just go to the website and use the promo code GFP for 20% off and free shipping. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. If you like to bet on sports, you absolutely need Betstamp, the best app to help you become a more profitable sports bettor. So go download Betstamp immediately and use our referral code GFP. The main reason you need it is for line shopping. Betstamp allows you to line shop for the most valuable odds on each wager and therefore maximize your potential profit as a bettor. So if you're betting on the Toronto Maple Leafs, you can't just go to one sports book. You got to look across the board to see who's offering you the most value, whether that's on the money line or the puck line. And also the importance of having multiple sports books, because if you have multiple sports books, you're able to access the best prices, and Betstamp, as I alluded to, streamlines this process for users. Lepore, Betstamp is such a good tool for sports bettors.
Guys, as Bruno and I have said on the pod, there's been a lot of unpredictability in the National Hockey League this year. Good teams are losing, bad teams are winning. So it's hard. It is hard to bet. It is hard to be a successful bettor. So why not take advantage of the help you can, line shop with Betstamp.
And one other thing that Betstamp does that's fantastic is that it allows you to connect with all the major sports books, right? And it allows you to link your account so your wagers from all those sports books automatically sync right into the app. So download the app and use our referral code GFP. I will have it linked down in the description. Betstamp is the way to go if you're a sports bettor and you actually want to make some money betting on sports. All right, Lepore, we got to talk about Kyle Dubas.
More, sure.
A little bit more, because we have talked about him throughout the first chunk of this podcast.
Yeah.
But going back to the offseason, Kyle Dubas revealed publicly that he was a lame duck GM. They had not given him a contract extension. So right now, he is in the final year of his contract. And, you know, like we talked about, people were thinking, this is not going to go well. The Leafs don't have goaltending. They lack a little bit of depth. We don't know if Sheldon Keefe is the right coach. These are not necessarily things we were saying. These are just kind of the general feelings around Leafs Nation. But now that the Leafs have been on an absolute tear, 12 straight games with a point, haven't lost in regulation since November 11th, looking like one of the best teams in the league, one of the elite teams in the National Hockey League. Lepore, I ask you this. Should the Leafs give Kyle Dubas a contract extension right now?
They should, Anthony Bruno. And people are flipping out at that comment, saying what's happening now doesn't matter. It's about the playoffs, this and that. The Toronto Maple Leafs are in a good spot as a franchise. Kyle Dubas has done an excellent job. Even if you want to point to playoff losses, you look at how this team is constructed, and it's constructed very well. You can tell that there is a system to this team. And what I mean by that is it starts from the top. Everyone knows the Leafs are in an organization that heavily relies on underlying numbers and advanced stats. You can see that every move they make has a number, has a metric. It makes sense or it doesn't. And I got to say, people can argue whether it works or not, but go to the Leafs cap friendly. What jumps out at you is bad, really and truly. This team is on pace for 115 points again. And the whole playoff thing, to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, if they get swept in the first round or something, and it's, okay, Kyle, you failed, but we're in the same situation we're in every year. Like, I always think it's so contradictory that people point to, I'll say any team, like say, well, we're talking about the Leafs, keep it on the Leafs, and say, oh, they're not built for the playoffs. Well, my argument is always, okay, well, is Boston? And so, oh yeah, Krejci, Bergeron, Pasternak, Marchand. Okay, well, if this juggernaut Bruins team is so built for the playoffs, why did it take them 7 games to beat us? And Tampa Bay is a historically good team. Historically good. The Leafs were up 3-2 on them in overtime. It takes nothing for the Leafs to win. And Kyle Dubas put them in that situation against that team. What he's built, I'll give it an A. Like, I know people would flip on that. I will give it an A, and I'll tell you why. Because I challenge anyone listening or watching on YouTube, and comment down below if you have examples. Go around the league. Go on Cap Friendly and go around the league. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and there's that section of like retained money, guys who are, or retained money is the big one, and buyouts. And there are so many teams, and it never gets talked about. There are teams that have multiple guys in that section. And even if it's like 3, 4, 5 million, that's a lot. Instead of 82.5 million now you're at 77.5 million on the cap. How can you compete? The Leafs, now that Kessel's gone, have none of that. They're not retaining a dime. Then look at the actual contracts. How many teams you look at on Cap Friendly? Oh, that guy, he makes a lot. Like, this middle of the pack guy makes 4 or 5 million. We got him in free agency, hasn't worked out. This guy we extended hasn't worked out. Who on the Leafs is in that spot? And people are already screaming, oh, Marner and Tavares. Marner's on a 20-game point streak. Period. And people forget the whole reason for the whole negotiation nightmare with Toronto when it came to Marner. The Columbus Blue Jackets offered to make Marner the highest paid player in the league. The offer sheet was made, and he rejected it. So there was another team willing to pay him like 13.5 million at the time. So you can't really say, well, the Leafs overpaid when they gave him under 11, right? And he took years off, sort of negotiation tactic, I'm sure, which makes sense. And then Tavares, I'll listen to the Tavares argument for sure. That you can point to that one and be like, nah, it's not ideal. But at the same time, I'd point to the value of it, that he's your number 2 center. And that's worth something.
And he's on pace for 40 goals this season.
Right. And really, no one can say John Tavares is like a $6 million. No, like, come on, guys. He's at least like an $8-9 million player. He's a 200-foot center who's lighting it up. And he's your captain. So again, I'll listen to that one. But no, other than that, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Lepore, the one contract that I'll say that you could probably look at and say this isn't a great contract and it's not even that bad is Alex Kerfoot.
Yeah, this year. Yeah.
And that's the thing, though. It's like, if that's your worst contract, if you're an NHL team and your worst contract is Alex Kerfoot on the final year of a $3.5 million deal, that's really not that bad at all.
I remember people were posting too, because like Kerfoot's always taken a lot of shit. And I think it's based on, okay, we pay these guys at the top so much money, so we need cap room and we need value at the bottom. So they see this guy making 3.5 million and like, oh, we can replace him with $1 million player and then do something else. But someone posted before the season started, it was every forward in the NHL who makes between 3 and 4 million, and their scoring numbers over the last, I don't know how many years, and Kerfoot was second in scoring among players in that salary bracket. So again, up until this year, but yeah, you're right. Kerfoot's had a disaster this year. Like, let's call it how it is.
Yeah, his empty net goal against Dallas,
I was gonna say,
I believe was his first goal in 22 games.
Fucking brutal.
So, pretty insane. Here's the thing about Kerfoot. I don't want to start a whole Alex Kerfoot situation, but when you actually watch him play, like, he's very fast. He's pretty explosive, honestly. Like, the problem with him is that he can't finish. He has no finishing ability, no shot. But I think he still brings more value to this team than people realize. I think he's kind of become like the whipping boy, because as you said, with the big four doing their thing, people have been dying for anyone in the bottom 6 to step up and actually do something. And he's viewed as like the one guy that should be producing and creating offense and actually generating chances in that bottom six. And he has not been doing that. So he's kind of just become the whipping boy. But I think it's been a little bit unfair. So I am going to bat for Mr. Alex Kerfoot. Call me crazy. But going back to Kyle Dubas for a second, Lepore, I mean, I think they should extend him right now as well. I mean, the team that he has built on paper and the team that we have watched over the last number of seasons is just a really good hockey team. And sure, they have not gotten past the first round of the playoffs. And that is totally fair criticism. That is totally fair to put a ding next to Kyle Dubas because of that. But as you said, Lepore, this team has lost a deciding game 5 years in a row.
Oof.
Like,
thanks for the reminder.
We've talked about this on numerous shows. That it almost just breaks math. It's almost not even mathematically possible that you can go 5 consecutive years losing the deciding final game of a playoff series.
Mm-hmm. Like, and not only that, Bruno, the games they could have clinched as well. Like, to make it even crazier. And ironically, I was just going on a rant how mathematically amazing this organization is, and it's math that's fucked them.
Yeah, it's just insane. So the team that he's built, and as you mentioned, Lepore, there's really no bad contracts on this team. There's no retained money. If he's had a bad contract, he's found a way to get out of it. Sure, he's had to deal draft picks, and people have been a little bit upset about that. But that comes with the territory. That when you're taking some gambles, sometimes you're going to have to unload first, second round picks when you don't want to put your team in a better position moving forward. And one thing that I loved, and we'll go back to this Dallas game for a second last night, that 5-on-3 penalty kill, that sequence where, Marner's stick breaks and Sandin's blocking shots and Marner's blocking shots and Murray's making these 10 bell saves. The first thing I thought about Lepore was the playoffs. And I said, this is the type of I want to see from the Leafs come playoff time. And specifically,
that's the difference
from the goaltending position. Because if you think back, right, go back to the Montreal series, Game 7. Gallagher scores that goal along the ice to beat Jack Campbell. You think about the Kotkaniemi goal in Game 6 to beat Jack Campbell glove side. You go back to even the years where Freddie Anderson was in net and some of the horrible Game 7s he had.
Those impossible angle goals every time.
The Leafs have not been able to get that big save in a big moment when they needed it most. And the thing that I thought about when I saw Matt Murray going post to post, sprawling all over the place, making these saves, if the Leafs can get some big saves from him in the playoffs when it matters, that's going to make all the difference in the world. And I'm not saying that he's going to do that come playoff time, but it gives me hope. Seeing some of the things that he's done through his first 9 games as a Leaf. And honestly, the same thing with Ilya Samsonov. I'm confident that going into the playoffs, Murray or Samsonov is going to be able to provide better goaltending than we saw from both Jack Campbell and Frederik Andersen. Straight up.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that sequence. I mean, it's been shown on SportsCenter 100 times because it was so dramatic. But I was shitting myself during that time because here was this game. You're playing a good team. You're on the road. You're up by 3-0. And here's this 5-on-3 at the end of the second period. And we talk about hockey gods on this show all the time. Here I am. The Leafs are up by 3. I was on the edge of my seat for this because I had the vision of they score now. It's 3-1 now going into the third. It takes nothing for this to be a game now. And again, you're on the road playing a good team. And then it was like, bam, period over, penalty kill, done, relax. Chill in the third period. And like, that's the difference. That those 1 or 2 saves, 1 or 2 block shots that, okay, you won 4-0 and it looked easy, but all it would have taken was 1 goal at the end of the second on a bullshit crazy thing where Marner loses a stick, killing a penalty. And that's it. We're on a track meet now and the ice is tilted in their favor. So again, you're absolutely right, Bruno.
And here's another thing I'll say, all the Leafs haters, and not just Leafs haters, but, people who follow the Leafs religiously, a lot of them still say, I don't care. They got to prove it to me in the playoffs. And that's true to a certain degree. Fair. But at some point, Lepore, if you're watching this team on a day-to-day basis and you're paying attention to what's going on, you need to acknowledge the strides that this team has taken defensively and playing the quote unquote right way when it comes to the playoffs. Like, this team has never been this good defensively in the Matthews and Marner era. Like, we have seen them take a massive leap when it comes to both team defense, the way that the 6-man defense core has played, the goaltending. I've never seen this team in the Matthews and Marner era be this dominant defensively. And if you can't acknowledge that and realize that this team is making strides to, again, playing the right way, as a lot of people like to say, then you're just simply not paying attention to what's going on this season. And I think that should be celebrated. And call me an idiot and say, oh, yeah, you're celebrating regular season play. You're a loser. Well, what are we going to do? Sit here and not acknowledge the good things? We're just going to shit on the team all the time? At some point, you actually have to acknowledge that this team is doing a lot of great things, and they're actually making strides to winning in the playoffs and playing that quote-unquote playoff style and what it takes to win a 7-game series against the best teams in the NHL.
Right. Can't wait.
All right, Lepore, anything else you want to get off your chest? I think we're both in agreement that the Leafs should give Kyle Dubas a contract extension immediately. He's built a great roster. It's not his fault, honestly, if they lose in 7 games in the first round again. I'm sorry. That's going to be on the players. So
one thing I will say that kind of dawned on me, and I don't think people are really considering. I think Leafs fans, and within Leafs fans, people who like Kyle Dubas, people who don't appreciate Kyle Dubas, and even fans of other teams, I think we would all agree, kumbaya, hold hands in a circle. We'd all agree that if Kyle Dubas is not extended by the Toronto Maple Leafs, he'll be unemployed for about 15 minutes. He will get an opportunity somewhere else. So I'm getting to the point, I'm not going to say I'm worried, but it has popped in my brain. He can walk. They can offer him a deal and he can say no. If the Rangers come or some big market team comes with a big fat contract and a clean slate and you can do whatever you want, maybe we lose him. So that has to be taken into consideration too. There's so many moving parts here. Like things happen behind the scenes, and they're in that boardroom in MLSE. Maybe they already know they're going to extend him. Maybe he knows he's already going to get extended. And people would say, a lot has to do with like the Matthews situation. And that's a tough one, even for MLSE. It's like, hey, we want to fire this asshole. But now what? You have a new GM coming in. He's going to negotiate with Matthews. I mean, then Matthews might say, no, I'm going to wait a bit. I'm going to play out the year to see what happens. So I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say like I totally fear Dubas just walking, but it's not out of the realm of possibilities. It's not. And I mean, the Leafs have the pockets. They'll pay him what he deserves. But like, people can tell, like, whatever your take is, like, I'd be rattled as fuck if Dubas was not the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs next season. So it'd be even more gutting if he just walked for another opportunity.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'll end it on this, Lepore. I think the Leafs would be complete idiots if they don't give Kyle Dubas a contract extension, because I think right now, and honestly, I don't even think this is up for debate. I think Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe is the best head coach GM combo the Leafs have had since Pat Quinn was the head coach and GM. You go back over the last 20 years, you look at the GMs, Lou Lamoriello, Brian Burke, John Ferguson Jr., all the coaches that were in here, Ron Wilson, Randy Carlyle, go down the list. Has there been a better GM coach combo since the Pat Quinn years than Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe? And I think the answer is no.
Yeah. Honestly, I think you'd really have to go back to like Fletcher, Pat Burns, to have that real and true argument. But yeah, you're right. Again, I make the joke all the time that people forget about history when they listen to our show. Like, the Leafs have been historically fucking terrible. Like, we have a really good GM and a really good coach. Like, let's not screw it up, guys? Like, things are okay. Like, people take things for granted now, like making the playoffs. Where every year this team, we're just waiting for the playoffs. That's not typical of Leaf fandom, everyone. So sometimes you have to look in the mirror and accept that you're a little ugly, and go with what you have and try to do your best. So I always find that funny too. People forget how bad this team has been historically and how little we've had to cheer for compared to this team.
100%, man. It's not normal to make the playoffs 7 straight years, which they're going to do this season. There's not a lot of teams that do that. I know the Red Wings went on like a 25-year run, and the Penguins are on a crazy playoff run, but not every team in the National Hockey League makes the playoffs 7 years in a row, pretty comfortably, I might add. So the Leafs have a good thing going right now. And I think they have to lock up Kyle Dubas and Sheldon Keefe on long-term contract extensions. All right, Lepore, time to move on to our next conversation here. We got to shout out the Montreal Canadiens.
Woo!
Because, we're pretty negative about them sometimes. I'm definitely more negative towards the Habs than you are. I'll admit that. And
because I'm closer. I'm closer to La Belle Provence, Bruno. They can actually find me and hunt me down.
That's true. They're going to have a tougher time finding me in Toronto. But honestly, man, this team has surprised the hell out of me because I thought they'd be in the running to finish last in the NHL. And I will say this, they have had a pretty soft schedule so far. So I think there are going to be some losses coming up. I don't think they're going to finish dead last in the league like I thought that they could be in play for before the season. But man, oh man, this team has been pretty solid under Marty St. Louis. Suzuki and Caulfield are looking fantastic. They're actually getting pretty solid goaltending. I don't think anyone would have ever said that with Carey Price not playing. But Lepore, man, right now, when you look at the standings, the wild card standings, the Montreal Canadiens are currently 3 points out of a playoff spot. Do you think that this team can actually make the playoffs this season?
Make it. Ooh, before I even get going, everyone, Habs fans, comment down below. I wouldn't bet on it. But that doesn't mean that I'm full of compliments for the Montreal Canadiens. I think what the Habs season is showing us is that as we evolve in hockey, and when I say that, I'm referring to players and styles, the gaps between talent aren't that big. I mean, you obviously have the superstars at the top, the McDavids, the Draisaitl's, the McKinnons, the Crosbys, those guys who are just better than everyone. But I think there's a really large, meaty part of the curve as far as talent goes. So people may flip out of this, but it's almost as if your lineup isn't as important as it used to be. You of course want the star players at the top, and the Canadiens have them with Suzuki and Caulfield. But what I'm getting at is, I think now more than ever, there's a huge importance on coaching, a system, and having sort of the right players in the right positions rather than just like a team of good players. And I think Marty St. Louis has done that. Because when you watch them, they're always kind of exciting to watch. They move, like I said, they're getting goaltending. Their D looks good. Like they have these young kids who are snapping the puck around, confident. Again, they're relying on Suzuki and Caulfield who are producing. So I just think Marty St. Louis done an unbelievable job. Like we always say, like, to win the Jack Adams, you either have to be a team that makes the playoffs that was supposed to be bad, or a team at the top of the standings that was maybe supposed to be average. Like if the Habs get in the playoffs, Marty St. Louis is probably winning the Jack Adams. So I think he's done an excellent job. I think the team is built nicely. I mean, they have some work to do. There's also the matter, too, with regard to them actually making the playoffs. And again, Habs fans, comment down below what you think of this one and which players you're thinking of. They'll try to unload, I think, at the end of the year, which will make them weaker. I think there's a lot of guys who they would let go. There's rumors about Josh Anderson to Calgary, I believe. And the way the Habs are currently built, and I think what they're striving for, if they could get rid of Josh Anderson, I think they would. It's going to get to a point with Gallagher where it's going to be sad because he's been great for the Montreal Canadiens organization, but both sides are going to have to move on. So I'm not saying that would happen this year, but I'm just saying, like, I think they could do some things later in the season that could weaken their lineup, make those moves that hurt you now, but are beneficial to you long-term when they want to be ultra competitive. So yes or no answer. No, I don't think the Montreal Canadiens are going to make the playoffs, but a lot of compliments to Les Habitants. They're a fun team to watch. They score goals. They seem fundamentally sound. I mean, their underlying numbers are lower than where they are in the standings, but they're not brutal. They're not like at the bottom of the league, and they're somehow finding ways to win games. So positives for Montreal. It's one of those seasons, and I told a buddy of mine who's a Habs fan at the start of the season, this is the perfect time of fandom. If you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, zero expectations. Zero. They do well. Yippee. They do poorly. Bedard. Shot at Bedard. So as long as like the kids were scoring and they were fun to watch and exciting, who cares?
Yeah, it's a win-win situation.
100%. 100%. It's been a while. Like, seriously, imagine being able to watch your team And I always say the Leafs had only one season at the Matthews rookie year where you could just sit down and watch. And like, I don't say don't care, but like, yeah, you just watch. If they win, great. It's good for their confidence. If they lose, we're trying to tank anyway. So again, Montreal is in that boat, and that's not a hot take. I think everybody would agree with me on that. So good on them. Good on them for entertaining their fans. Good on them for being competitive. And yeah, Marty St. Louis, I think he's figured it out, like I said, because I think he's built something there, or implemented something, I should say, that looks nice.
Lepore, I don't think I've ever had more fun watching the Leafs than in Matthews, Marner, and Nylander's rookie season.
It was the best, yeah.
They made the playoffs when no one thought that the Leafs would take that leap. Like, it was insane to see, but there was no expectations. They faced the Capitals in the first round. Everyone expected them to lose, which they did in 6 games. But I believe 3 of those games went to overtime. There were so many. I think there may have been like 4 or 5 one-goal games in that series. It was crazy. Like, it actually could have gone either way. All you did was enjoy it. You enjoyed the play of the young guys, how they were getting better. And you're seeing that right now with the Habs. Now, I do agree with you. I don't think this team's going to make the playoffs this year. When you look at the betting odds, they're still a shade over 14-1 to make the playoffs, even though they're 3 points out. But as you said, they're probably going to unload some guys. I've even seen Joel Edmondson's name getting thrown around on social media.
They're saying Edmonton for a first round pick. Maybe a lot of people were flipping out at that payment for him, but
yeah, so they could unload Edmondson, Josh Anderson. Who knows about Gallagher? I mean, I don't know who's going to touch Gallagher's contract. The guy's on the books for another 4 years after this year at $6.5 million. Awesome. But I'm sure Montreal would love to trade him if they could. That can only be beneficial for their rebuild. So, yeah, I think the Habs are in a good spot right now. And you said it, man. St. Louis is doing a good job, because if you compare this team to 2 other Canadian teams, like look at Ottawa. If you ask 100 hockey fans, they would all say that Ottawa has a more talented roster than the Montreal Canadiens. If you asked 100 hockey fans, they'd all say that the Edmonton Oilers have a more talented roster than the Montreal Canadiens. But if you look at the standings right now, the Habs and Oilers have the exact same points percentage, and the Habs are ahead of Ottawa right now in the standings. If you just look at pure points percentage, right now the Montreal Canadiens are sitting around like 18th, 19th in the NHL. Okay. That's pretty darn good, considering that there was a lot of people, including me, who thought that this team was in play for finishing dead last and having a shot at Connor Bedard, which they could still very much have a decent chance at Connor Bedard once the schedule toughens up a little bit. But you got to give credit to this team, man. They have exceeded expectations across the board.
Yeah, 100%. Again, props to the Habs, man. Props to the Habs.
All right, Lepore, anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this podcast?
No, see, it's weird times like this, eh? Nothing really negative to say about our boys. Like when we're actually happy, actually impressed with what we're watching. Leafs fans walking on air for a bit. We'll see in a couple months what happens and where we're at. But what is going to be interesting is to see once this team starts getting healthy, like how they respond. Because there's that old cliche of, guys really step up when the team's unhealthy and they're given an opportunity. You just hope the foot's not taken off the gas. Like someone put up the number the other day, like the Leafs are the best team in the league since Riley got hurt.
Yeah, they're 6-0-1 since Riley went down, which is absurd.
There you go. So when he does come back, I know Brody's soon to come back. Hopefully that same intensity and drive with the lower guys stays, and hopefully they can keep doing it. Like you said earlier in the show, they're on pace for 115 points, and that would tie the franchise record set last year. Let's kick it up a notch, man. We said, I think it was our season preview, that the Leafs have a shot at the President's Trophy. Let's go for it. Let's do it.
Yeah, they're totally in play to win the President's Trophy, and I think you nailed it. I think the thing to watch over the next, let's call it the next few weeks, is what happens when this decor gets fully healthy. Because if you guys have listened to this show before, I love Morgan Rielly and TJ Brody, and I don't think they're the problem at all. I know the stats look totally weird, how the Leafs are undefeated in regulation with Morgan Rielly out of the lineup, but it'll be interesting to see when those guys are inserted back in, how this decor looks moving forward, especially with all the guys that have stepped up. Sandin and Liljegren have been phenomenal. Giordano, as we talked about. Hall has been good. Mac Hollowell has been good.
Bro. So Justin Hall. Okay, Justin Hall. Yeah, I think you already know where I'm going with this. Here he is. This guy shot on all year. You mentioned before whipping boys for the Leafs. He is like the whipping boy. He is that guy, 100%. We talked about and joked about Leafs fans on Twitter. Justin Holl is the poster boy. Here he is playing well. Last dozen or so games. Compliments all around. People saying, wow, Justin Holl's being good lately. Then last night, shorthanded for a split second, he thought he was playing for the Toronto Blue Jays and grabbed the ball and threw it out of the zone to put the Leafs on a 3v5 penalty kill. Justin, we're trying to like you, man. We're trying to like you. Don't be doing shit like that. We're defending you as best as we can. We got no defense for that. Split second decision. Like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking, Justin?
Lepore, I'm so glad you brought that up because that was the funniest moment of the season. He turned into like Bo Bichette trying to make a throw from shortstop. I don't know what the hell was going through his head throwing the puck out of the zone, but that was honestly, man, that was phenomenal. I don't even care that put the Leafs down 2 men. That was just incredible to see. I was laughing, man.
Yeah, like my phone was like blowing up. Did you see that? Did you see that? What the fuck was that? Did you see that? I'm like, yeah, I saw it. I'm sure I'll be talking about it tomorrow on the pod.
Oh, that was awesome, man. But yeah, you said it. Justin Holl, please just don't do stupid shit on the ice. We're all trying to love you, man, and you've stepped up big time. You know, you've been really good with all these injuries that have happened on the blue line. But please don't pretend that you're an all-star shortstop and try to make a throw across the diamond in the middle of a hockey game, please.
You got to think too, right? Like, and stuff you wish you could see. I'm sure at the intermission or even at the end of the game when they won or whatever, he was getting fucking roasted by the guys. Oh yeah,
he was probably getting chirped so hard in the room after the game.
Yeah, like he's gonna get to the team plane. There's gonna be a baseball mitt on his seat or something. It's gonna be, oh my god,
man. He's got to do something like with the vibes going on right now. They got to do something with the Jays, where they have Hall do some sort of segment with someone on the Blue Jays because of that. Like, oh god, that would be so.
Look at you, Bruno. You should work in marketing for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh god, perfect idea right there.
Yeah.
All right. That is going to do it for episode 83 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, the Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast, hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Once again, I'll let you guys know, as I always do, if you really enjoyed this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on both Apple and Spotify. It really helps out the podcast, and it helps us reach more listeners. And if you're watching us on YouTube and you really enjoy the show, please smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, write a comment down below. Only like 24% of you who watch the show are actually subscribed to the channel. So we gotta bump up that number a little bit, and we would appreciate that more than you could ever imagine. So for Michael Lepore, I'm Anthony Bruno, and we will see you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.
Flow.